are back on Play It Forward with Marianne Amelinckx, filmmaker. The work today is Dear Uncle. Marianne, thanks for being on the show. Would you like to introduce yourself or Dear Uncle?
Well, first, thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Marianne Amelinckx. I'm a filmmaker from Venezuela. I've lived in LA for the past 5 years. I went to school in Venezuela. I went to film school in Venezuela. And after I graduated, I directed a short film called Salta. And that short film really opened many doors to me. The short film got into Tribeca and won an award in another festival in Switzerland. So that really helped me, well, basically also build my case and get my visa here, and start like my life here in the US. Um, because the situation in my country in Venezuela was, like getting really bad, basically.
Politically?
So yes, yeah, and economically, like the cost of living or the way of living and the quality of living wasn't really, it was going down basically. So then after moving here to the US, well, the first couple of years, my wife and I worked with a marketing agency. I mean, my then girlfriend and now wife, we worked with a marketing agency, and I was like the video director for their social media ads, for their branded content, and all of that. Uh, it was a great start, and it really helped financially. Like, okay, we're starting a new life here, and it was, like what we needed at that time. But then after a couple of years of working with them, we started a company, a production company on the two of us. And with this production company, we co-directed a comedy short film because my wife really loves comedy too. So it's another project called Blessed and Highly Favored. Then we produced Mustache Mondays, which was a documentary for PBS Southern California. And we also did an institutional, what is that? An institutional documentary for research that was done by one of the labs at the New School University. That was very interesting. That project took us to Colombia, and it was about Venezuelan migrant women in Colombia. So it was really a very rich project. And then lately, or my latest work is Dear Uncle, which is the project that we're gonna talk here. And it's a short documentary that I did because I've I found that filmmaking really helps me process things. And I think I'm not the only one. No, I think that's kind of like why we do it. But the thing is that my uncle, 2021 was a hard year for me and my family. I lost three aunts and uncles in like three consecutive months. So it was like, ooh. And one of my uncles that passed away in 2021 was my uncle Ignacio. Uh, so this short film that I made kind of like to process the grief, to honor him a little bit. It also talks about my queerness because it's in me, and there's a topic there that, uh, well, yeah, it was organic to turn to that topic too. Um, but then this short film got into the Outfest Los Angeles, and we premiered there. And other than having the opportunity to show the work, to like in the DGA, and it was like really nice. It was also very interesting how people, after watching the film, after the screening, came and started saying things that how they related, to the main topic that, or one of the main topics of the short doc, which is family secrets. Uh, and I've had also people come to me and like tell me their family secrets, which is, like, oh wow, now they're sharing their own secrets, right? Um, so that sparked, uh, yes, like a fire, I guess. And we decided, okay, how can we do this as a documentary? that it's not only going to talk about like what the short documentary talks about. Um, it's how can we do this as a feature that would talk about more family secrets, and it's going to create like a path to collective healing uh, for this family that, you know, has some secret things going around.
Cool. So the intention is to make a feature out of it. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's thank you for that intro. That covers a lot of ground. You definitely have some, great experience, and this project is a passion project of yours, and it's a really rich film. I'm sorry about, this loss that you've experienced
Yes.
back to back to back. Certainly not uncommon, especially during the time of COVID.
Yeah.
Not that minimizes it in any way, but just like I've talked to other people that have said that, they've lost, you know, um, people back to back. Is just crazy. So that said, the family secret is a really kind of it sounds like something that a lot of people are responding to, and it's definitely there. When I watch the movie, it's about 5 to 6 minutes right now.
Yeah.
And it really, what I got out of it thematically is like, okay, here is an uncle that you have some shared commonality with. And in the byline and in the tagline or the log line, it says something about, what happens when our
Mm-hmm.
the expectations of our parents go exceed our limits of our identity, and that's like a very humanistic kind of thing that we can all understand, irrespective of whatever that might be,
Yeah.
portion of ourselves, whether it's sexuality or some other identity that we have. So in
Mm-hmm.
this particular case, you have an uncle who was um dressed by his mother because she really wanted a girl as a girl for a period of time. And it
Yeah.
seems that the indication is that it seemed to have an impact on his life, but that was really never discussed. And it also seemed like you have this commonality of queer identity at some point in your life, and
Mm-hmm.
you never got a chance to talk to your uncle about it. And
Yeah.
so in that way, for me, it was less of a family secret, but that's definitely there. It was more about loss and not having a chance to connect with a beloved about a topic that you shared. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I could have talked to them about XYZ.
Yeah.
So, you to segue into the first question, we've got a rich kind of framework. The first question is typically like, where did the impulse live inside of you to explore the topic? And I guess outside of what you already shared, do you think you can reflect on that in a meaningful way?
Look, yes. I um there were things in the short documentary that weren't included because I also did this short documentary as a part of a creative lab, where there was like a program of directors, and we had to do a 5 minute piece, so I had to really cut down, until I get the 5 minutes. um but the topic of my queerness and growing up, and me trying to understand this story that it's hard to tell now that my uncle is not here anymore, that was kind of like my impulse to make this film,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And in that, with that said, it becomes more of an impulse to understand yourself, and
Yes.
by and to understand yourself through connecting with the past and the past experience, and this questioning that we often go through as humans until we, fully accept ourselves however we are, is like, why am I the way that I am? Especially in something inherent like that. And so we have these questionings. Well, what happened? Is there, is it just like, did the wind blow a seed? And did, how? And we try to make these connections. And so I guess
Mm-hmm.
that said, it's like, okay, well, did you get any clarity? If that's true, did you get any clarity around that? And yeah.
um I think that's why I want to make the feature.
Okay. All right. Further dive into it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If and that said, so this is kind of a work in progress. The message of the movie, right, as it is now in its framework, as a 5 minute piece. I think the message of the movie for me as a viewer, bless you, is like, hey,
Thank you.
how can we take advantage of the resources that we have, right? So here it is that your uncle is to make meaning of our lives, essentially. So your uncle's gone, and your connection was to him through your father. So you began a dialogue that was not discussed in your family, but you did it with your father. So you are making use of what you have to get to what you can. How do you see the movie in reflection as a viewer, and what message does it give you?
Um, yes, I'm going to read you the log line that we have right now for for the feature
Yeah.
version that maybe answers what you're saying. So um, it says, after losing a beloved uncle, queer filmmaker Marianne Amelinckx decides that the only path to collective healing is to unravel the tapestry of hidden truth that binds her family together. So the thing is that the topic of my uncle being dressed as a girl and the topic of my queerness were two things that happened at different times. Like one happened in the early 50s, and the other it's my experience since I was born. I grew up in the 90s, and in Venezuela it's a very conservative country. So those are the things that are going to be also
Mm-hmm.
included in the queerness. And there's also, this is like the I don't know if I should say, because it's kind of like a big spoiler, but there's also another dear uncle that I have, and it's my uncle Andy, and it's my dad's youngest sibling who is alive and in Venezuela. So
More.
yes, yes, yes. So this documentary is also well a way to also go back to Venezuela. I've been there just once in the past 6 years. So go there, reconnect with this uncle, with whom I didn't really have a deep relationship due to family secrets, basically. But I just want to go and reconnect and see what happens, and see how we can, in a way, heal.
That's
This.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I totally get that. And one of the reasons that I love art is because there's has so many layers, there's so much depth to it. But then at the end, you can take it and insert it into your life. You can insert it into your life as a framework, like, the hieroglyphs that, stories were told around the fire. You make meaning of life and retain that meaning through actual experience, whether it's lived vicariously or, lived personally. And so we share these meaningful experiences. And what you've said, what emerges for me is like the truth will set you free, right? You are
Yeah.
restrained, the family, there is some dynamic, there's something chained and bottled and tight and restricted and potentially scary. And you are in a process, an expedition to discover the truth, the meaning as you can make of the message that exists based on the clues that are there. And when you do, irrespective of what happens, your own personal freedom will be liberated.
Yes, and in the sense also of, for example, like when making a documentary, you also have to think as a director, okay, what archival materials I have in hand. And I don't know, coincidentally, fortunately, don't know the whatever good adjective to
Cosmically,
use. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
My grandparent, my grandpa on my dad's side, he liked photography or something like that. Like, I'm not really sure. He died when I was 9, so I remember him, like, dearly. But at that age, I was just starting to get interested into cameras and stuff. So I really never. Well, this is another question. I couldn't really ask him, like, oh, Tito, what about these photos, like, because he has photos, and I have that album now with me, and the pictures I scanned them when my grandmother died, I scanned them to preserve them and also to share them with the family, which is I have some cousins living in Florida, some cousins in Peru, family in Venezuela, so like we're all around the world. So I created a Google Drive so you can go and see it. Not sure if they really remember it, but I do go back, at it.
Really cool.
And I've done it since my grandma died. So it's been a few years of me just watching those pictures and remembering my grandparents. Photos from 1940s in Switzerland and in Belgium, because that's where they lived at that time. They migrated to Venezuela in 51, I believe. So there's that archival. And then my dad and in my household, we always had like, I have three older brothers, so there was always an interest of technology, Not that we were like, we had like this huge equipment, no, but my dad will like buy a laptop, like the first ones. And then,
Right.
okay, updated like a couple
Yeah.
years later, but it's like, oh, like a computer, so it was
Right.
that moment of the story, the history, I guess. Um, so we always had cameras too, and this sounds like every filmmaker story, but it happened for a reason, I guess. So I always, started manipulating with the camera. There's a video of a little cousin that was being born, and I found the tape. I was recording. I was, I don't know, 11 years old, and I do like zoom in and put the title, and I'm like, look, this looks cool. So there's that archival as well. That plus the present footage that we capture when we go back to Venezuela. I think it's going to make a very interesting documentary, and with a personal tone. I don't know. I'm excited
I'm
about it.
sure it will. It sounds like a great project. It sounds like a very rich thing to do. And I want to ask you this question when you're done with the feature, but for now, I think it's appropriate too, because you've started the journey with this 5-minute movie. How have you been changed as a person since making Dear Uncle the short?
Well, this will be my first feature, but so that it kind of like puts you in a position when you're facing like well, it's a longer project. It has more depth, than short films. So that's kind of like what's changed, I would say, like my perception maybe of like, okay, the size of the project that I'm making. Um, but other than that, it's been very interesting. My wife who is producing it, she's been the producer for all the projects that I mentioned earlier in the conversation. um we just got a grant from, and I can't say that much because they haven't really released the information yet, but that's going to help us start the project next year, early next year. We're still looking for some funds to kind of really complete the the budget for what we need in phase one. But we're working together. She's working really hard to try to like secure those funds.
That's very exciting, and that's
Yeah.
really cool, that she is um dedicated and supportive as a wife and a partner and a creative partner. It's a special relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely it is a very important and a very decisive job,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Marianne Amelinckx, filmmaker. The work is Dear Uncle. The feature is in the works. I look forward to having you back on the show. Thank you for being here today.
No, thank you, Kostya. Thank you for having me. This has been really, really fun. And well, hopefully I can just come back and we can talk about the future.
That'd be awesome. All right, everybody on Play It Forward. Peace out. See you later, Marianne. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.